I've said steadily, even before October 2023, there is a need to stop Israel's apartheid and to make it accountable, because it's harming surely the Palestinians, but invisibly the Israelis, because you cannot keep on brutalizing another people without losing your humanity in the process. And it's exactly what is happening today. I mean, we don't talk about that very much, but there are so many young Israelis who are coming back to senses and taking their lives because they cannot live with the demons unleashed by what they've done to the people in Gaza. They've killed civilians like with no respite. And so now, yes, I think that this might be the end. This might be the end of, actually, it is the end of Israel as a value system, whatever values, whatever broken the values were because of practicing apartheid. But I think this is, I agree with Ilan Pappe when he says this is the beginning of the end, unless they are stopped before it's too late. And this is where we are. I think it's already pretty late. But it is what it is. So I do see that, especially when there is something that we don't know, or we don't know to the fullest. Is that we know more or less what has been done to the Palestinians in the open air in Gaza, in the West Bank, but what has been done in detention centers. This is another level. Again, I do believe that even the comparison with some of the most horrific genocides will lose meanings, because the way Palestinians have been tortured systematically and even often raped, very often raped. I mean, this speaks to the Israeli society, because eventually soldiers are part of the society, and there is open discussion in Israeli society about the fact that Palestinians should be raped. The thing is that I'm only investigated cases of civilians. I don't even know where the combatants are. They are not held in known centers. They are not visited. So if they are doing this to civilians, to men, women, and children, I can't imagine what they are doing to those who have been fighting. And so this is a long answer, but to tell you, I mean, we're still unpacking what Israel has become.
Well, I have questions about the reparations. Should Israel pay for the destruction?
Yes, absolutely. Not just Israel. Israel and the countries who are complicit, including this one. Frankly, you have been providing weapons so there should be a full assessment of the complicity. So Israel should pay, but should have paid also before. The International Court, this is not my opinion, this is not an opinion. The International Court of Justice in January 2024 concluded the occupation is unlawful. It's a form of aggression. It say that other than in the explicit way I'm saying that, but the moment he said it's a violation of the UN Charter, it's a form of aggression against the Palestinian people, which justifies resistance, by the way. Resistance is the equivalent to a people of what the right to defend itself is to a state. And so, and the court said the occupation must be dismantled, the colonies must be dismantled, Israel should stop using Palestinian resources and should offer reparations for what has done to the Palestinians during decades of unlawful occupation. So of course Israel is to make reparations. All the more Israel should pay for the reconstruction of Gaza, together with the United States, together with Germany, and Italy, who are the main weapons providers, but also the UK. And that there should be a robust investigation on the UK's complicity with this genocide through its the services that have been provided to the Cyprus from the Cyprus-based basis that it is there. And now, let's be honest. Let's be honest about the European Union. I don't think that the European Union has ever been so clearly and quintessentially honest toward the outside world for what it is. A continuation, a bureaucratic conduit for European countries to continue to live as a colonial, as a colonial mindset. Europe today, the European Union, is the heir of colonial powers, no more, no less. And this is why it puts economic interests before anything else, but not economic interest of the European people, mind you. The economic interest of those in power, who are in power, because they are also connected to totally connected to the economic and financial system that again is profiting from an economy of occupation, but is also profiting from rearming themselves, these countries. So Europe, should be questioned today. I strongly believe in the European Union, but I want a European Union which is of the people and for the people, and not for like a reproduction, a minion of an Atlantist minion, which is what it is today. And it's also a good opportunity now to question the colonial roots of the European Union, because as part of Maastricht treaties and the other treaties that constitute fundamental European Union's law, there is the fact that the colonial underpinnings of the unions have never been questioned. And this is a good opportunity to do that. I do agree that the United Nations response, you said, has been pathetic. I do agree, but this is a result not just or not much of lack of. Let me be gentle with the United Nations. Let's say it's not lack of vision. It's not a lack of courage. It's also the United Nations. It's living the most the face of highest vulnerability of the institution. But it's not that it fell upon the head of the United Nations. UNRWA has been tormented by Zionist forces for 20 years. I was already with UNRWA in 2010, and UNRWA had already gone through at least 5 years of accusations of anti-Semitism, of fostering, of supporting terrorism against Israel, which are lies. And I don't think the United Nations, as a family of organizations, not just family of states, of organizations, has stood in solidarity with UNRWA. When the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights was kicked out from the occupied territory, I think it was 5 years ago, because of their report on businesses, the setup of the database on business complicity. The other entities, the other organizations didn't make a peep, didn't say a word, because it was OHCHR. They went for OHCHR, then they went more robustly for UNRWA, against UNRWA. UNRWA has been declared already a non grata entity by the Knesset, so UNRWA can already not fully operate through Israel. And frankly, the United Nations has not protected UNRWA, first and foremost. Like, it's not effectively protecting me, and it's crumbling, So this is why, I don't know how the organization will survive. But to be honest, and even as I said for the European Union, I do believe, I do want to have a multilateral system as a platform that protects all of us. But if the United Nations is this, do we really need it as an extra layer of dominance? No. So I do want to hope that this moment of crisis is what will turn the system truly democratic. And of course, we should have no veto power. But it won't happen by inertia. It won't happen by generous initiative of the veto power holders. No, there must be a popular action turning into this, and also mobilization of the 191 members of the United Nations. And there was another
question. There's a question on the US, which perhaps is a bit outside your mandate, but if you want to comment on that, on whether, you know, the MAGA tensions may actually lead to a...
Yeah, I've never thought about that. But then 2 nights ago, I had this entertaining interview with Tucker Carlson, and we managed to agree. I mean, I think he's come around on Palestine, because 5 years ago he was not there. Today, he sees that what the United States are helping Israel to do is wrong, and which I agree with. But I come from a universalist and international law-based perspective, while it comes from another perspective, Christianity, which I appreciate. Because again, how can you defend what Israel, supported by the United States and others, are doing in the name of God? What kind of broken religious compass do these people have? Because one thing we should agree upon is that children should not be starved, should not be maimed, should not be killed, should not be living as they are, in permanent terror, as they are Palestinians. So yeah, I think that he comes from a place of Christianity, and he comes from a place of why we should spend US taxpayers' money on funding this. And yeah, this is the breaking point, I think, in the US support basis. And it's exposing also what John Mearsheimer, for example, has said for 20 years. I mean, there is an Israel lobby in the United States, but the way I see it, and it's not that I've written or researched, this is really it's empirical for me, but there is a lobby, there are lobbies, and Zionism is not something that is connected to the Jewish people only. Christian Zionism is even more pernicious, and I see something that I've never seen, the widespread, the spreading of Christian Zionism as an ideology, which misuses religion and misplaces religion. That is not just in the US. It's obvious. Ted Cruz. I mean, these people talking about religion without even knowing what they're talking about clearly, but it exists in my own country, in Italy. The most active political supporters of Israel, and connecting this to religion, are Christian. And the same thing it's happening in Latin America, the same thing it's happening in Africa, which is also reflected into the erosion of some actors in the global South support toward Palestine. The United Nations, I mean, I wish the 100. I said it in February this year when I heard for the first time President Trump talking about the Gaza Riviera. I said, this is irresponsible. You shouldn't say that in the middle of all this. It's immoral. You shouldn't say that in the middle of all this. And it's illegal. It's illegal. And then 8 months later, that thing becomes a UN resolution. For me, this is the lowest point of the UN. At the moment, never before there was a precedent, because there were also some awful decisions that were made on Western Sahara this year. And I said, oh my God, this has become a horse trading space more than before. But I would have never expected to see that so-called peace plan becoming a UN Security Council resolution. So we have to cope with it right now. The fact that the state of Palestine is part of it, or Arab countries are part of it. I mean, I don't know. Many people behind the scenes say there was no choice. There was no choice. There is always a choice. Even if it means breaking the system, there is always a choice. And the choice here is looking at what the anti-mafia movement has been in Italy. I mean, the mafia is the collusion between financial, economic power and interest and people and the political system. This is what the mafia is. Forget about Al Pacino and the gangster saga. This has been another tool of mass destruction. The mafia is what has allowed criminality to become institutionalized in certain places, but it's related to economic interests and financial growth and political administration of power. And when it was those who exposed it the most were judges, journalists, and lawyers who were killed in Italy during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But then there was a turning point, and people realized that this system wins only if it forces us into silence. And when people started protesting in mass, not scared of what they could lose individually, but convinced of what they could gain by standing together, things started to change. Has mafia been defeated? Not entirely, but surely in Sicily is not as present as it was. It has been uprooted for what in the violent form of control and domination as it was. But then, as with apartheid, it really takes generations to, and it's a continuous struggle. And the same thing today, the United States and Israel and others are resorting to mafia-style techniques of abuse of power, institutionalized abuse of power, and intimidatory tactics. And the only way to resist to this is by uniting, really showing solidarity as capacity to stand together, not just the people, but member states. And this is what I hope member states will do within the United Nations system.